Hello and welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast, powered by Harper's Tree and Stump Removal. If you have any tree trimming, tree removal, or stump removal needs, our friends at Harper's Tree and Stump Removal have you covered. They can haul rock and sand, they can do driveway work, and can now do horizontal grindings of large wood debris piles. Give Keith a call at 229-314-2048 or at 229-938-2412. Harper's Tree and Stump Removal is the proud premier sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast, covering local sports in the Southwest Georgia area, creating content that is factual, positive, and informative, promoting efforts by athletes, coaches, and sports administrators. Now, here's your host, Tim Estes.
Hello and welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast. Thank you for making us a part of your weekly routine. Let me encourage you as we get started today to like and share this video, whatever platform you're watching it on. We also need your help in reaching the 1,000 subscriber mark on YouTube. Go to our YouTube page and simply hit the subscribe button. We are getting closer, but we'd like to get to that 1,000 subscriber mark here soon, and you can help us do that. Our guest today is Coach William Rooks. William is currently the assistant baseball coach at Sly County High School, and in the near future will become the new dean of students and athletic director at Southland Academy. Coach Rooks, thanks for joining me.
I appreciate you having me, Tim.
Coach, I want to go way back. Let's start when you were in high school at Tri-County High School. You and I met when you were a center fielder for the America's Travelers, had a good high school career. Just kind of walk us through those high school days, how you kind of came to love the game of baseball, that kind of thing.
Well, growing up, it was all I wanted to do was play baseball. My dad, you see this as you get older, but when you get home from work, that's what we did. We went in the yard, we played ball, and so I fell in love with the game at an early age. And so as I kind of transitioned into high school, I played for Ricky McCorkle at Tri-County, and he was a highly successful coach, a highly successful program, and he saw things in me that I probably didn't see in myself. You talk about playing center field. I actually grew up, pitching and playing shortstop more than I did anything else. And I remember I was in 8th grade, because you went to Tri-County in 8th grade then, and he put me in center field, and I was a little mad about it, because I've always been a shortstop. But coaches see things that we don't see a lot of times when we're athletes.
Absolutely.
And I never came back. I played center field. I was fortunate enough to start as a freshman. A lot of people probably don't believe that, because I don't look like a center fielder anymore. I kind of look more like somebody that should be getting the water for the center fielder. But I was fortunate enough to start out there for 4 years, and we were really successful. Ricky McCorkle was his ability to motivate is what makes him stand out. And so very fortunate to have a good career at Tri-County. And of course, we had a lot of good players at Tri, and guys I still talk to this day, people like Luke Jernigan, who can hit it a mile, people like Nick Williams, who play with us with the Travelers, Edgar Smith. Yeah. It's always fun to see those guys and how successful they are in life, and the crew I went to school with and graduated with. And then during the summer, we moved to Americus when I was 16, going into my junior year of high school. And so somebody told me, hey, you should play ball in Americus. I'd never played in Americus. I'd played at League 27 growing up. And so somebody told me about 16 and under tryouts. And so I went and tried out and played for the 16 and under team. And I remember Billy Nicholson coming up to me and said, hey, why didn't you play with the Travelers? And because that's who Edgar Smith and Nick Williams were playing for. And they both lived in Sumter County. And I didn't even know what the Travelers were. Nobody had told me about it. I had just moved to Sumter County. So I didn't know what it was. And so the next summer, I was asked to try out for the Travelers. And, tried out, and it obviously that was a whole different experience for me. I'd played summer ball every year, but never travel ball. When
Yeah.
we went all over the place and played 50 or 60 games, and everybody on the team could play. And
Yeah.
so you had to scratch to get in the lineup. And so it's really probably the first time I realized that, everybody on the team was as good as I was, if not better than I was, probably better than I was, if we're being honest. And so I had to figure out other ways to contribute. I had to be able to get butts down. I had to be able to hustle on and off the field. I had to be noticed. I had to
Yeah.
play defense, which was kind of my forte. I really wasn't a strong hitter, but I had to play defense. I had to make good throws. I mean, every little thing mattered because you could lose your spot if you weren't playing well. And so I did that the summer of between my junior and senior year, and then after my senior year, was able to play with the Travelers and learned a lot. Got to play against a lot of good ball players. That was fun. I remember playing against East Cobb. I'd never seen competition like that before. They had people like
Yeah.
Jeff Keppinger, who played at Georgia and played in the major leagues. A funny story about that. I don't know if you remember this, but he hit one in the gap, and I ran it down, and he popped off at me coming off the field. And the next time he hit one, and when he hit it, he said, "Catch that." And it
Yeah. And it
landed all
landed
over
on the
us.
softball field, I
Yeah,
think.
landed way beyond the fence, and so it was fun. I mean, we got to play some really good competition with Panama City, went to Lakeland, got to play Derek Jeter's team, and from Kalamazoo, Michigan, and so learned a lot. Learned a lot from you and Billy and Bobo Short. I actually knew my father-in-law before he was my father-in-law,
That's
because I
right.
played with my future brother-in-law, Chan, and so just real fun times growing up. And right at the end of my career, I had some opportunities to go walk on a couple places, but I was 5'9", 160 pounds, and I probably, if we're being honest, I probably was upset that I wasn't getting offers. Now that I'm on this side of it, I realize there's not many 5'9", 160 pound guys that are getting offers, but I didn't know any better then, and so I decided to hang it up. And my dad had a hard time with that. He
Yeah.
didn't really want me to hang it up. He wanted me to go try to walk on somewhere, and he had a hard time with that. But he's the one that kind of started pushing me into coaching,
Yeah.
mainly because he knew how much I loved the game. And at the time, I thought he was just pushing me away from the car business. He
Yeah.
didn't want me to do what he was doing. But then I had kids, and I see their talents and what they do well, and so we don't want to tell our kids what to do. But a lot of times we're like, "Hey, these talents lend you to do certain things," and I felt like that's what he did, and that's really kind of how I ended up in it.
William, you and I talked earlier about what we would discuss tonight. And one of the things that just came to my mind that we haven't talked about, and I hope you'll be able to expand on this a little bit. As I look back when you were playing, and you mentioned guys like Edgar Smith and Billy Nicholson and all those guys that were coaches or players with you. When I look at the teams that you and Chuck and Jody and Earl coach now, I think what's similar with those teams and the America's Travelers teams you played on is we were talented, just like your teams are talented, but we beat a lot of people that were better than us, one in baseball IQ and another just in camaraderie. You guys loved each other. And man, this past week when we had the ceremony for you and Chuck, one of the things that really struck me was you guys had all these alumni that came back to be a part of that. And I can't help but think what you got back then, you brought into the coaching realm. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think when you're from a small town, what you've got to do is ball in school, and there's something different when we fight with people and you sweat with people and you work with people. You develop a bond that nobody really can understand outside of sports. If you've never played, if you've never been part of a team, it's hard for you to grasp the concept of that team bond. Um, I was talking about this the other day. You were talking about what were some similarities between the teams I was fortunate enough to play on when I was younger, and some of the teams we coached, there's this expectation to win.
Yeah.
Even when you're not the most talented, because there's a lot of times we're not the most talented as a coach, and certainly when I was a player, I was rarely the most talented person. But you had this expectation that you're supposed to win because the people before you won. And you don't want to be the people or the team that breaks that. You don't want to be the team that doesn't win regions. You don't want to be the team that doesn't advance in state because the people before you did.
Yeah.
And, the kids always get mad at you when you talk about previous teams. But you do that as a motivation tool.
Right.
Because, our kids are so tired of hearing about the 15 team or the 17 team. Well, we do that on purpose.
Yeah.
Because we want them to want to strive to be better than those teams because they want to be talked about like that 5 and 10 years down the road.
Absolutely. William, you mentioned your dad kind of pushed you a little bit at the end of your career into becoming a coach. I want you to talk a little bit about the decision to become a coach and an educator, because one of the things that's impressed me even more about you, both of my daughters had you as a teacher. And I think they would agree you were one of their favorite teachers because you taught. So talk to me about what went into becoming a teacher and a coach.
Well, if I'm being completely honest, I went into teaching so I could coach.
Yeah.
When I became a teacher, I realized I like teaching as much, if not more, than I like coaching. We're going to talk about this a little bit later, but kids, a lot of times, kids that you coach, they choose to be part of the baseball team or part of the football team or whatever. But, the kids that you teach, they don't really have a choice.
Right.
Especially at a small school, they got to be in my classroom. And so they may not be a kid that would draw themselves to me, because, we may not have things in common. We may not, they may not like sports. They may not like to hunt or fish or whatever. But what I found out is I'm able to develop a relationship with kids because they don't have a choice but to be in there. And I usually can find some sort of common ground with them. And if I can ever find that, and it'll give them a sense, maybe a connection. And so something I've learned is I like connecting with kids that may not be like me. Right. May not like the same things that I like. But I'm also fortunate enough that I can connect with kids that do like those things as well. I enjoy the classroom every day. There's days on the ball field that you don't enjoy, especially when you're getting your tail whooped.
Yeah.
But in the classroom, I can choose to enjoy that most every day. And so I'm glad that I shifted, in my thought process on that. I respect coaches a lot more when they teach. And I got to give credit to people like Larry Stubbs and Rusty Cundy, because when I first started, they preached teaching. They preached education first.
Yeah.
And I think that's, in my younger years, I think that helped me develop that mindset. And there's times, obviously, that I fail as a teacher. That happens all the time. But I want people to come out of my classroom, and even though they might not even like it in the moment, I want them to come out and say, you know what, I'm glad I took him. And that's my goal. I'm not sure I always achieve it, but at least that's something I strive for.
We're talking with Coach William Rooks, the assistant baseball coach at Sly County. Our show today is brought to you by Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance. They're located at 925 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Americus. You can reach them at 928-3686. Drop by and see Marty, Mary Lynn, or any of their fine staff, and let them do the famous discount double check to make sure that you're receiving all of the savings that are available to you. Thanks again to our friend Marty McDonald for sponsoring this segment of the Integrity Sports Podcast. Coach, you teamed up with Chuck Cheek for most of your career. And you guys have had some incredible coaches, most of whom are still there. But I did want to mention a guy like John Duran, who was an incredible high school baseball coach and have since moved on to the metro Atlanta area. But I look at guys like Jody Sellers and Earl Dupree, and man, you guys have had a good staff. And the level of success that you've experienced is absolutely astonishing. Tell folks about those guys and what it's been like to be a part of such a good group of coaches.
Well, when I first started, I was the head middle school coach, and Coach Sheik came in my second year of being the head middle school coach. I did that for 2 years, and at the time, Coach Lover McMichael was helping Coach Sheik, and Coach McMichael asked me if I would be willing to move up to the varsity and let him coach middle school because he was kind of wrapping things up, and I said I would, but that was the first time I'd ever met Chuck Cheek, and so we really didn't know each other until we got started, and it didn't take long to figure out that he had a passion that only the greats have. You know, I've wondered sometimes like what drives people like Nick Saban. When you win all these championships, and he still has the same drive that he had before he won the first one. I mean, Chuck Cheek's got that kind of drive. I mean, he wants to be successful, and I felt like me and him aligned really well to each other.
Absolutely.
I was telling somebody the other day, if I lose in checkers, inside I am fighting mad. Now outside you won't be able to tell. Maybe when I was younger, but as I've gotten older, I've learned how to lose with grace. But inside, I'm not happy about it. And Coach Sheik's the same way. We both lose sleep over losses. We don't lose sleep over wins, and we don't talk about the wins a lot of times. We talk about those ones that really hurt. And so I think one of the reasons that we've been a good marriage is because we both hate to lose.
Yeah.
And the great thing about Coach Sheik is that he gives his assistants jobs to do, and he values their input, and he listens to them. It is amazing. You know, I hear stories all the time from other assistant coaches. They work for dictators, and Coach Sheik is not that. He values your input. He doesn't micromanage you. I called pitches for him for I don't even know how many years. He never one time made me call a certain pitch. Never.
Yeah.
Not in state championship games, nothing. Now, there's times he would say, hey, what you think about a fastball up right here? Oh, but you call what you want to. Call what you want to. You know.
Yeah.
And so I knew that was a suggestion, but never did he ever make me do something. And so I think that's why people like to coach for him. It's because they feel valued. And how many schools, and not even single A schools, but how many schools across the state or even the country have in 21 years have only had 5 assistant coaches. And out of those 5, 3 of them are still on the staff. One is an athletic director and one's won a state championship at Woodstock High School. That's an amazing accomplishment. And I really feel like having guys that everybody on his staff, all 5 total over the last 41 years, could have been head coaches anywhere that they wanted to. I mean, I know I've had opportunities. I know the other guys have had opportunities, but we choose to stay because A, we respect him so much. B, we respect the program and the school so much. And so I think that has helped lead to success, but it all starts with the man at the top. It starts with Coach Cheek and it ends with Coach Cheek.
Coach, it was recently announced that you have accepted the position of Dean of Students and Athletic Director that will begin next fall at Southland Academy. I know it had to be a tough decision, but knowing you like I do, I'm sure it was a decision that you prayed over a lot, discussed with your family. Now that this is public and you look ahead at this new role, let's talk a little bit about what you're looking forward to and what your hopes are for the near future.
Well, I met with the coaches the other day during my spring break, and one thing we talked about was we want to develop Southland into a place where people want to be, they want to coach out, and they don't want to leave. It needs to be a destination job. And we talked about how we want that it is coaches have such an influence on young people. And we want to create an environment that kids want to be a part of and they want to participate in and they want to be successful in. But really, Tim, I felt like the Lord was calling me to a new challenge. At the end of the day, I felt like I was getting stale in what I was doing, and I felt like the Lord was calling me into a new challenge. And I appreciate Miss Patty Webb, the head of school at Southland, for giving me this opportunity, and Southland's board for having faith in me. I love the classroom. I love sports, and I love kids. And I just hope that, and I pray that the Lord has equipped me to go out the South and be leaders of not only young people, but leaders of teachers and coaches as well.
Absolutely. One of those guys that will certainly be a supporter of yours is Will Peterson with One Digital Solutions. They are a steward of business growth and personal development. Their insurance, financial, and HR platforms provide a personalized tech-enabled solution for a contemporary work-life experience. One Digital resolves real problems for your business and for your employees. They do that by fusing together customized solutions that address things like employee benefits, HR, or financial services. It really is everything all in one. It's One Digital Solutions. Contact Will Peterson at 229-347-6289. One Digital Solutions is a proud sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast. William, you and I have known each other over 25 years. I know that your Christian faith is really what drives you on a daily basis in everything that you do. Tell me a little bit about that daily walk with the Lord and why that's so important to you.
Well, I appreciate you asking that. I may get a little lengthy, so cut me off if I do.
Okay.
But, about 10 or 12 years ago, I went on a mission trip to Haiti. And when I went, at the time I was teaching Sunday school, and I was I was going through the motions. And when I got there, I just started noticing, like, and this is going to sound weird because I had to go all the way to Haiti to see this, but there was just such a lack of male influence and male role models in Haiti. You go to church and there's no males there, or very few. Kids everywhere. You don't see any fathers around. And my first thought was, man, this is awful. And then my second thought is, how is this much different than America? What America is becoming. Men have to step up.
Yeah.
And and I at the time, I was doing the same thing that I'm currently doing. Is I've got a leadership role at school. I'm going to a even bigger leadership role starting next year at Southland Academy. And I decided then on that mission trip that I was going to be a better role model for the kids that I taught, the kids that I coach, for the adults I come into contact with on a daily basis. And I'm certainly have had faults along the way. I've had stumbles along the way. I have stumbles every day. I mean, when you put me in competition, a lot of times I have to really rein myself in. But there's a Bible verse, it's 2 Corinthians 5:20, and it says, "Therefore we are ambassadors for Christ, that God is making his appeal through us. We plead on Christ's behalf." And so I made that verse kind of my motto. And so when I came back, I had somebody asked me to give my testimony about the mission trip to my Sunday school class at the time, and that's where I came across that verse. And as I was trying to put something together, I wanted to talk about how we are supposed to be ambassadors for Christ. When people see us, they should see Christ. An ambassador is somebody that represents, and so we should be representing Christ. And I had to ask myself if that's what I was doing on a daily basis. And so it kind of dwarfed from there, given that testimony to I was able to put something together and do a men's thing at church about it. And, my thought was, if this is something I struggle with, if I struggle being an ambassador on a daily basis, surely I'm not the only one. Surely other men struggle with this too. So if I needed to hear it, maybe other people need to hear it too. And so it's kind of been my passion to try to make ambassadors for Christ from other men, other coaches, because coaches have such an influence. I mean, we all remember. I was telling my coaches at Southland the other day, we may not remember all our teachers.
Right.
We remember some, but we don't remember all of them. But we remember everybody that ever coaches. We probably could name our 5 and 6 year old coaches.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, what kind of life would I lead if I didn't use that as a platform to try to reach young men? And so that brings me to Romans 8:28, and that's a popular verse. Most people know it. It says, "We know that all things work together for good for those who love God, who are called according to His purpose." And so I just feel like that is what God has called me out of my life. And so every morning when I get up, I pray that I'm going to be an ambassador that day. And unfortunately, I fail. I probably fell at home more than I fell anywhere else. Your wife and your kids, they see the real you. They know you better than anybody. But that's something that I strive to do, and that's one of the reasons why I've accepted this new role is because I want to take that to the next level. And what better place to do it than at a school like Southland that is a Christian school that's built on Christian principles and Christian foundations. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about this next move.
Man, what a great segue, William. I want to get into your family. You have an amazing family, a beautiful wife that I've known probably longer than you. You've got 2 great daughters. I knew your parents. Your dad actually sold me my first car when I moved to Americus, and he was a good friend of mine. Your mom knew your in-laws before they were your in-laws and actually coached with Bobo Short for a couple of years. But all of those folks together create such a great support network for you. I want you to talk to us a little bit about those folks that keep you encouraged.
Yeah, I mean, it all starts at home. My wife, being a coach's wife is hard. People have no idea what it takes out of a coach's wife when they have to go to games, listen to people criticize the coaches. That's a very difficult thing. And so every coach knows what it's like to have to tell their wife at times, hey, you probably ought to go sit off by yourself, or don't come to the game, just don't come. And so, which is sad reality, but it's a reality. And so just having that support, when the kids were younger, by the time I got home, the baths were done, supper was done, and I was the fun guy. I got to come home and roll around on the floor and play with the kids because she had done all the legwork. And just, it's amazing, what she was able to do when I was coaching, especially when the kids were younger all the time. And then, my kids, everybody loves their kids. Of course, I love my kids. I got one, Ainsley's at UGA. She's majoring in communication sciences and disorders. She wants to be a speech pathologist because she wants to be able to influence kids in the younger generation. And then Adeline's going to be a senior at South County next year. It's going to be the first time I've ever got to work at the same place with one of my kids. And I'm excited about that. And she loves musicals and she loves art. And so I've had to learn to get into that stuff, because you try to find what your kids like and be involved. And just real proud of them and what they're becoming, the young ladies they're becoming. My in-laws are great. I remember Bobo Short when I played against Chan in League 27, and he was always the guy that yelled at people for swinging high pitches. That's what I remember as a kid. But I knew them before I knew Laura, and so they huge influence. Bobo was my coach, and then my mom and dad. everybody thinks they had the best childhood, but I really feel like I just had the best childhood. I had a dad that cared, that was there all the time, that played ball with me and taught me life lessons. I had a mom that had supper ready every night and read the Bible to us, and they took us to church. We didn't. I don't know if you remember this story, but I like to tell it. We had a state championship one time. I think it's when I was with the Travelers, and it was at 2:00 on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And Coach Nick told us we had to be there at, I think, 12:15 or something like that. And so I went home and I told my dad, I said, hey, I'm going to go to church and I'm going to skip Sunday school because I got to be at the field at 12:15. He goes, no, you're not. And I said, no, I got to be there at 12:15. He goes, you'll get there after Sunday school, so just tell Coach Nick you're going to be a few minutes late, which of course he understood. But man, at the time, I was fired up about that, you know. But what a testimony.
Yeah.
Because he was letting me know really early on where priorities lie. And that's something I've remembered, you know, to this day. And so very fortunate to have people around me that love me for who I am, you know, because I know I frustrate them all the time. And then, of course, I've had people around me, you know, that help me in my professional life too. I mentioned a couple like Rusty Tundy early, and you know, recently people like Harley Calhoun, you know, Chuck Sheet, you know, has kept me around, even though I know he probably wants to stab me in the neck sometimes because I'm not scared to give my opinion, you know. And,
we can't forget a guy like your best friend, Gabe Tice.
Yeah, and I was good. I was next, and Gabe Tice, he's been my best friend since we were probably 6 years old. And, you know, he does a great job as the athletic director. And we actually coached together for a long time as well. You know, and then now Patty Webb giving me a shot in administration. And I appreciate that so much. I appreciate that confidence that she's got in me. So, you know, there's just so many. I hate to sit here and name names because I'm gonna miss people. But I'm where I'm at because of the people that are around me.
Absolutely. The Fish House Restaurant is a new sponsor on the Integrity Sports Podcast. They're located at 224 North Jackson Street and offer some of the freshest seafood in all of Southwest Georgia. Whether it's fresh fish, shrimp, oysters, or catfish in their seafood center or next door, you can get a hot meal at the Fish House Restaurant. They are a staple of seafood in our area. Go by and see owner Mark Tyler or his staff, or give them a call at 924-5177 and let the Fish House provide a delicious meal for you and your family. The Fish House is proud to now be a sponsor with the Integrity Sports Podcast. William, it's been a pleasure to have you on today. And man, I am so proud of your professional accomplishments, but even more with the way that you have carried yourself throughout the year. This program, when I started it, I wanted to interview coaches and student athletes and administrators that really represent integrity. And that doesn't mean that we're perfect. We're going to mess up a lot. But when we mess up, we recognize it, we own it, and we ask for forgiveness. And I think you epitomize what integrity is. And man, we want to wish you the best in this new role. But before you get there, I want to celebrate another state championship at Sly with you. So, man, thanks for joining me, and good luck the rest of the way this season.
I appreciate it, Tim. I appreciate you having me. And let's go Wildcats here at the end of our baseball season. And for next year, let's go Raiders.
So we appreciate you joining us for the Integrity Sports Podcast. We air each Thursday night at 7:15. If you haven't done so yet, make sure and go to our YouTube page and hit the subscribe button. Help us reach that 1,000 subscriber mark. For my good friend, William Rooks, I'm Tim Estes. Thanks for watching